So yes, in this video, I'm going to explain why I think AI filmmaking is not going to be a thing. And of course, it's I think because I could be wrong. And I always wanted to be wrong because I always wanted to be a filmmaker. So many of you have been following me for so long from my Body Language Guy channel to Hear the Scene Surgeon. This video is going to be a bit different because I want to talk about three things that I'm really passionate about. I want to talk about movies, I want to talk about 3D and CGI work, and I want to talk about AI. I've always wanted to be a filmmaker, and I thought that AI was going to be the solution to that, because I thought that filmmaking was so hard with locations, with talent, with effects, with cameras, with the sun not being at the spot that you want it to be. And that's why I got deeply into 3D modeling and animation work. I have extensive experience with then alias Wavefront Maya, now Autodesk Maya, both in modeling and rigging. I'm going to explain all this to all you that have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm going to explain all this so you understand the whole pipeline. And for you, my fellow 3D artists, the way that I can prove that I have the chops is that, yes, I tried to UV texture map NURBS. So yeah, and I failed, of course. I have that scar right here next to my neck, so now you know that I belong to your tribe. Yeah, those were the days. Although I think that NURBS are still used in CAD systems, but that is not what we're talking about today. I want to start with some news that I read today, and that were quite concerning. Wanted director Timur Bekmambetov has spent 5 million and more than 10 years developing AI technology that plans to generate AI method actors. As in, he really wants to create AI actors. Okay, that is. I mean, this could be on my Body Language Guy channel, because I think that only from a body language perspective, that is simply not possible. That is simply not possible. I'm going to explain that as well. But I want to start with maybe the kind of movie that I wanted to make. This is the kind of movie that I wanted to make. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think that if we have a sequel coming, please don't suck. Please don't suck. Edge of Tomorrow, Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, one of my favorite movies. I can watch. This is a religious watch every 3 or 4 months. That's easy. And yeah, I want to do something like that, but what does it entail? Let's jump forward a bit. And all the excitement I got when I realized that I could make, AI images, or not only AI images or videos. This is a prompt that I came up with. It was a very easy prompt. Was Chinese woman eating ice cream under a futuristic Eiffel Tower. That's it. And that's what I got. A little bit plastic. A little bit, of course, that you have to be a bit more detailed about your prompt, and you can even animate it. I animated this in Grok Imagine. I don't know why she was racing the ice cream. I have no idea. I just let Grok do its thing, and it made sure to melt the ice cream at an awesome speed. Oh, well, maybe I said, okay, that explained looks about empty of people. We need more people. So I prompted it again, and we have yet another Chinese woman, different from the last one. More on that in a minute. But I think that there are too many tourists or people right now. And I never said that it should be raining or anything, but they have their umbrellas out. Then I prompted it again, and then I have a better outcome. All right, now I get a nice Chinese woman eating ice cream. Not that many people. It's still raining. The Eiffel Tower doesn't look as futuristic. I prompted that again, and that we're talking. Nothing says futuristic than a purple hue. You add purple hue to anything, then you might notice that everything cyberpunk, everything Blade Runner is purple or orange, something like that. And well, this is nice. That is a nice Chinese woman, a nice ice cream. I got the ice cream. I didn't specify it was chocolate or vanilla ice cream, by the way. And a nice Eiffel Tower and a nice animation as well. I get a nice animation of this. And there she is eating the ice cream. And people, yeah, they're walking, and but she is happy. I never said that she had to be happy. I wanted her to be sad. At the same time that she is sad, the Eiffel Tower has to turn green. And I asked Greg, imagine exactly that. I don't know why there was some kind of steam or vapor or something, but well, she is sad, and now the Eiffel Tower is green. So it's basically you get what you prompt, only that most of the time it's a little bit random. Why do I talk so much about AI? I mean, this is, not gonna lie, I've been playing with this. With the Google VO 3.1, amazing results. Higgs field as well, which was Sora 2 from OpenAI. I've tested them all. I know that Higgs field is not a model, but it is like a platform that you can use one, Hailuo, all those this Chinese models for generation. So amazing. The problem is the randomness. I am not used to that randomness because in the 3D world where we work, and I used to work a lot, I'm going to explain this to my non-3D savvy viewers. You basically control everything. Every single character that you see in Pixar movies, in animated films, in the Super Mario, we have the Super Mario Galaxy movie coming, and in video game development, you model everything like it was a 3D polygonal model, and you add kind of a skeleton to it, and the skeleton is that's what called the rigging, and you set up the skeleton the way that an animator then can then animate the character in a way that is believable. Or they sometimes use this the suits that you have seen that they wear, that have the actors and actresses paint these points in their faces so they can track their facial expressions. More than that in a minute. But ultimately, what we want in movies is getting something like this, which is also an inside joke for my fellow 3D artists. Well, what has happened to CGI since Davy Jones? This movie wasn't, what year was this movie? It was like 2004, something like that. I don't remember. I'm making things up. I don't know when this came out, but everybody talks about that CGI in movies peaked with Davy Jones. This was an amazing feat, of course. This was 3D model. This was rigged. This was procedurally animated. The tentacles were not animated by hand, but it is a bit more technical. It's like you set a formula to animate the tentacles, and I will talk about procedural generation and animation in a minute. Basically, you use a formula so the tentacles have a sort of a movement on their own, so you don't have to animate them by hand one by one, right? That is so great so far. So if we go back to our Chinese woman, we start to notice that we have some problems in here. And it's the main problems that I've seen when it comes to AI filmmaking. Of course, there's the problem with the consistency of the model. And I think that one of the worst offenders is that Coca-Cola Christmas ad that we saw. Maybe you saw it, and you saw that the trucks, for example, or the animals, or everything in there was changing from shot to shot, and that took 70,000 generations. 70,000 generations. Imagine how wasteful was that process, that they needed 70,000 generations to get like 2 minutes of ad. This is like, how many shots did that ad take? I don't know how many shots were, but they had to roll the dice. It's like literally rolling a dice 70,000 times until you get it right, like our Chinese woman. Okay, how many people do we want here? And why is the sky of that hue? And why do we have only one green lamp and we don't have 2 green lamps, or 0 green lamps, or orange lamps? Or I wanted all the Eiffel Tower to be purple, and we have blue and purple. I couldn't control that. I didn't want this to be the angle of the camera. I wanted the camera to be a bit lower. There's a ton of stuff here that we can't control it. All that we can do is to add it to the prompt and roll the prompt again. That's why I call this process prompt and pray. Prompt as in write what you want, or get an image, like a first keyframe or an image. Like this is an image. Okay, this one, what you're seeing right now, is an image that I generated. And then once you get the image, you can have a video of it generated over that image. The problem is that how do you get the exact same Chinese woman in every single shot and have consistency, because they change all the time. It's baffling how everything changes. And that is the problem with AI. What is the benefit of this process? This process is way more laborious. This needs a lot more work, because you have to imagine if I was a 3D character. You would have to model my face, my glasses, my clothes, the texture of my face, how the light enters my skin, everything, my hair, my background. But the benefit is that once you get all that sorted out, you don't have to touch that again. All that is already, I'm going to be me. My 3D model is not going to change. You can rotate me, you can animate my arm. If you have it rigged properly, if you have the clothes adapting to my limbs properly, you won't have to do anything. You just hand over the model to the animator so they can do their animated magic. And that is great. And that is the same with lights. Once you set up the lights of your setup, your background and your atmospheric effects, that is not going to change. I think that doesn't happen. That does change with AI. But nowadays, people are trying to control this, especially, and the most important thing, I wanted to talk about body language, because the most important thing of any story is the people. That is hands down. There are nice examples of shorts out there, but most of them have voiceover off, like voiceovers. You don't have people actually speaking, because there's still this uncanny valley. They haven't been able to solve the speaking and acting part. Maybe we could have, there have been some advances at that. I'm gonna put two examples. I know to my my friends, my AI bros, I know that I'm going to, maybe this example is from March, it's a bit dated, but it's still what we are aiming for, in which you could act yourself. You could use your camera, your phone camera, that already exists in Unreal Engine, which is an engine to create video games, in which you can record yourself and move and act with your face, and that gets translated to a digital avatar, and you can essentially control the actor on screen. Something that we couldn't do with our Chinese woman, and when she acted sad, I did not control this. Maybe I wanted her to cry a little. Maybe I wanted her to be more intense. I get lost in translation. More intensity. No, that's the problem. That's the problem. And that's how we get to the main problem with AI filmmaking, which is granularity. How much granularity do you want? Yes, we want control over anything, because in this game, if you don't control it, the AI will. And if the AI controls it, then the AI will do whatever it pleases with this. As in this, it will decide that 6 people with umbrellas are going to be in the shot. And maybe you don't care about people with the umbrellas, but you do care about the movement. Well, that's why, well, at least there are people working on solutions in which you can have recorded footage, okay, thanks to, wait a minute, it was shared by Cyan Puppets. They're working these solutions in which you can essentially record yourself and be able to, you notice that you see that skeleton on this 3D. This is a 3D application. This is not an AI application, but some AI applications are trying to do this, in which you can record yourself and translate that movement to the screen. It would be far easier for some instances in animation if you can do this. We used to need to have a suit with balls and everything, but in fact, thanks to AI, we can do this without that suit. But having said that, I'm going to give you one example that popped out on my timeline like 2 days ago. thanks to Dan Scalco for this one, in which AI filmmaking bros now have discovered keyframes. In case that you don't know what keyframes are, is when you have an animation, you have a starting frame. Maybe I'm here, I want to do a salute animation, and this is my starting keyframe animation, and my ending keyframe animation is like this. And I set up those two keyframe animations, and if you have a package of a 3D app that can interpolate a movement, then you just set up those two, and then you have a movement of salute that is going to be very boring. You have to kind of make it more interesting. Let's say that I have more, and this is my clothes get in the way. I want something more, like an actual salute. Okay, you need to play with the velocity of the limb and everything. You need more control. They are discovering that, yes, you need the keyframes for more control. The problem with this is an AI application in which you can apparently control the movements of the things, even if the things make no sense in many instances, okay, or are terrible. Again, I can understand that this is the worst it's going to ever look. This is going to improve massively, and it's going to be indistinguishable from reality. I am aware of that. I am not a Luddite. I don't know how to pronounce that. I've been always at the edge of what is video production and special effects. I love all this, but we need to be realistic. What is the problem with this? This is, when I saw this kind of dog from Victorian era moving, anchoring the body of the dog and moving the arm. Yeah, you have to set anchors for the body and the head and then move the arm. That means that, okay, what if you need to move the head, you will have to move the keyframe, right? So if you want to do this move, and let's see, if I turn my head and then I turn back and I salute, okay? In 3D work, we know that we need to deal with animation keyframes. I have to turn my head, assign a keyframe, maybe adjust the velocity of how I turn my head back, and then not have a boring salute here and then back, but the hand has to go faster, faster at first, and then just brake very, very, very fast, or decelerate very fast when I reach in my forehead, and then go down. And notice that it's not only my hand that's moving, but all my body. There's always a reaction, and let alone when we have facial expressions. There's no way you can do that without filming a real human to have real facial expressions, because you have to match voice tone, the words, the emphasis in the words. It's not only we have amazing voice tools already, but how does the AI know where to put the stress? And some of you are going to say, my AI friends, well, with enough content, the AI will know where to put the stress. And then I will ask you, what kind of content are we talking about? Let's say you feed the AI, because for how long we've had movies and TV shows. Let's say you feed the AI that you're going to use for movies and shows with every single movie from all over the world, in every single language, in every single TV show from all over the world, in every single language, and you feed the AI with that. My question for you will be, what is the percentage of those movies and TV shows that have great acting? What defines great acting? What makes a scene memorable in terms of acting? And how do you tell the AI, this is great acting, this is not, so the AI can discern, and how can it tell when it's great acting? That is the main question. My main question. That's why I thought of making this video for my body language guy, because this dilemma has a lot to do with body language. This is not going anywhere without the proper body language. And body language needs control. And the level of control that we need is the humans. It's not an AI deciding if the ice cream melts down quickly or not. It's not the AI deciding that this is going to be as far as the sad expression goes, no further. No, that's why a human is necessary. That's why it's necessary to make decisions as in, no, I did not want that smoke or vapor or anything. I didn't want it to rain. I didn't want that angle of the camera. All that you can control in 3D. It's a lot more work, but it's worth in the end because every single thing, you can control every single thing. Now, does it mean that AI has no applications in cinema? No. It does have and very powerful applications. I could talk about video games as well, but that is for another video. I don't want to make this video that long. But one thing that AI can be great is that when we have, for example, scenes of battles and we have like thousands of warriors fighting each other, and you have this drone shot of that skirmish, then you can use not only procedural animation, which has been used since the Lion King, back in the original Lion King. You remember that the death of Mufasa, you had all these 3D animated animals where this stampede was 3D animated and was procedurally generated. It was like a formula to control all those animals. That's kind of the same principle behind the crowds on the Lord of the Rings movies. So yeah, you have this combination of real people with CGI and also technology to help you deal with that. And what can be artificial intelligence good for? Well, it could be make that procedural more realistic, even react to what is happening around the heroes or the villains, even help the environment like the trees or the clouds to react to what is happening on the battlefield or under any circumstance. There's a lot that can be done with AI, and a lot that can help in AI. For example, de-aging actors. When you have to bring back a character for one shot to honor them for one last time in the movie. That's going to happen. That's something that can't be stopped. I know that AI can be so much better at it than doing it in 3D. We remember Leia Organa in Rogue One. That cannot be unseen. We remember Flynn in Tron, the sequel to Tron. I forgot the name of the sequel, the Tron sequel. I was about to say Tron Eternal. I had a brain glitch. But you remember Flynn. You remember the de-aging of Jeff Bridges was awful. It could have been AI could work beautifully for that. AI could be amazing for that. So there are applications in filmmaking, but sadly not to the scope I wanted it. I've always wanted to make amazing movies. I've always wanted, when I began testing AI tools, the first thing that I did was try to put myself in the scenes of Edge of Tomorrow. That is a fact. That did not work out. It's like let's say the marketing of these tools is a bit, it's overhyping them. I'm assuming that we're going to get there. We will be able to put our faces in there and really be there. That's going to be a copyright debacle, but we're not there yet. But we will be. But the problem is, what happens when by the way, this kind of exoskeletons, they're real. They were pretty much real. They built real exoskeletons, working exoskeletons for this movie. That's so amazing. But what happens when your AI generations change from shot to shot, when the sun changes from shot to shot, when the shadows change from shot to shot, when the likeness of your actors, when the age of your actors, when the bruises of your actors change from shot to shot. That is a lot of continuity that you can get away with continuity problems here and there. That happens in movies and TV shows all the time, but it will get annoying very fast. That happens every 1 or 2 shots. We simply cannot deal with that. And that is the nature of the current state of AI filmmaking, which is prompt and pray. That's why I wanted to explain the whole process behind how to make movies with 3D, actual 3D work, and how is these shorts that are out there being made, and these ads out there being made with AI. One has total control. It's a ton of work, but you decide everything and nothing changes once you decide it. And the other, you have this randomness that you just cannot escape from. Now, I think there has to be a middle ground. There absolutely has to be a middle ground in which you have the potential, as I said, as like the way that we can use AI for effects is massive. Okay, because we are literally picking up those effects from real life, because you can train an AI to know how an actual explosion looks like, and you don't need to animate that with particles anymore. You use AI for that, and you can use it in with depth effects, so you can have this volumetric effects as well. I'm getting carried away because I'm telling you again, I'm passionate about movies, I'm passionate about 3D work, and I'm passionate about AI as well. But I think that AI filmmaking in its current state is being overhyped. This is not it, because you're letting way too much control to the machine and not the humans, and that is not working out. And every time I see people saying, "Oh, this is so cool," not gonna lie, it looks cool, but you see that the continuity, the movement can be haphazard, like all over the place. Facial expressions, we're not there yet. And again, to have all that right, you need a level of control that if you try to control, then lights and special effects and people and clothing and the gait of the animation of this character, or this voice tone, they have to say this in this way and not that way, and they have to interact with each other, have this argument, then you realize it's a ton of work. You're basically touching the surface of what the actual work in 3D is. So it will end up being just the effort that 3D artists are doing right now. So this is for you, my fellow 3D artists. I'm telling you that our work will be appreciated more than ever, because it will always be necessary to have that level of control. It will never not be necessary to be able to control your character to that level, to that level that we do. Because that's what we want on the frame. And that's how we control the camera, and we decide these cameras. We use cameras in 3D work, and the cameras are physical cameras in the digital work, if that makes sense. But that is a thing. That is something that we still don't have in AI filmmaking, or we have that in a very crude way. And again, it's like, this is going to be more control than anything. Again, I would really like to know, what do you think about this in the comments? Again, this is completely different to what I do here on The Scene Surgeon, but if you like movies, and if you like a little bit of gossip, you like AI, and you like good movie scenes, maybe you can hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm The Scene Surgeon. Much love and bliss.